the magic word, this is a Bristol. There aren't many of these about, are there?
I've been told there are 3 left in Britain, and I don't know if any of them were ever exported. They were actually built specifically only for use by BRS to use in their own fleet, which I actually think is a bit wrong, isn't it? Because it's not fair. Why should BRS be the only allowed person to purchase it? If you wanted one, you can't get one. That probably caused some animosity as well.
I mean, the big question is, were they worth that then? Were they that good as a truck in the day?
I think they were ahead of the competition. I'm not exactly sure, but this is 1962. That's old, isn't it? When you think of the technology we've got now to compare with this, it's actually a joke.
So tell us a little bit about it. I know this isn't your speciality.
Bristol were a company that basically built buses. That's where their history is, and the government, I would assume, asked them to design this to give BRS something to use. So what we've got here is a Bristol, built in Bristol, 150 horsepower Gardner engine and a David Brown 6-speed gearbox, who had a factory in Huddersfield at Meltham Mill, and a fiberglass cab. And this vehicle came to work for BRS at Ipswich. It was originally on a night trunk to Manchester, and then it was retired to more local duties, and it ended up shunting in Felixstowe docks. This time BRS's yard was where Sainsbury's supermarket is now, at the bottom of London Road Hill.
I remember it being
I remember them being in there, although it was a BRS truck rental yard in my day, not the actual haulage, standalone rope and sheet, trunks, handball, hard work. The Ipswich Transport Museum wasn't actually called that in its early days. It was a collection of friends who collected some stuff. And in 1975, I believe this was the first thing that they were ever given that wasn't just a lawnmower or an old bike or something. It was actually something mechanical, and they hadn't really got a home to put this stuff in then. And BRS gave it to these people with the inkling of having it restored and shown as we are here today, aren't we?
Because as it sits here, it's immaculate, isn't it?
Well, it's quite a stunning little thing, in fairness. I mean, I suppose I am biased because of my youth and education, that I viewed... I'm a child of the Swedish, the Italian, the Dutch onslaught, where the foreign trucks just blew us all away with what they could build and what Britain could compete with, like the Leyland Marathon. To me, it was just not up to the job. To compare it with the Scania 111, there was nothing to compare with it. It was 10 years behind. But if there's only 3 of these left in Britain, and I don't know they were ever exported, this is a rare piece of equipment, and it's worth keeping, isn't it? If there's only 3 left. They did make these as an 8-wheel rigid, apparently, but Trevor Ling loves this. Any excuse he can get to get in it and have a clutch around, and I'd love to have a go in it, actually. Just a David Brown 6-speed box. That would be interesting, because they're part of my life with all the tractors Dad had on the farm.
When you look at this, Simon, in terms of working capacity, now it's obviously a day cab, but...
Yeah, I think it was 24 tonne.
That's what I was going to say. Gross 24.
Yeah, and we're now at 44.
Yeah.
So, and people were staying in digs in these days. If this was on a night trunk, it didn't go to Manchester. It went halfway and met somebody else, sort of Northampton, a bit further north perhaps, dropped trailers, turned around and came home again. That's what it did. But to compare, they're actually almost, you can't, I know they're still moving goods, but you can hardly put them on the same page. This is 150 horsepower. Well, most trucks now are 500 horsepower, moving nearly double the weight.
So it's a different ball game completely.
Totally, and it's a pig. To drive it, it's got no what you call modern driver aids of anything. I mean, that would shake your teeth, I would imagine. It's gutless. It's got no power steering, no power assisted clutch, all of it. It's just a manual thing that you have to lug to steer, lug to change gear, and you have to absolutely rag its nuts off to get it to move.